Previously in Uncommon, Book 1 in the Chronicles of the Common series. Kai, Izzy, Luke, and Eva all escaped from the space station at Lana, with Eva once again on death's door. And now, Chapter 15. Eva. A blinding light shone through my closed eyes. Turning my head to the side, I flinched at the stab of pain spearing through my skull. I didn't recall hurting my head. The last thing I remembered was the crazy roller coaster ride outside of Atlanta, in freaking space. I reluctantly blinked open my eyes, dreading the discovery of where in the universe I had the misfortune to wake up now. White walls with oddly shaped grooves and lines slowly came into focus. I was on a metal table, in the middle of a white room with a blinding light overhead. This scenario was becoming all too familiar. Propping myself on wobbly elbows, I lifted up and froze. Through the glass window on the opposite end of the room stood a man. The man. The same exact man from the white room. Oh, hell no, not again! My heart bounced off my ribcage and tumbled into my gut. The thought of the pain from the white light and being pulled anywhere again was enough to send me into a full panic. I frantically scrambled to get off the table and away from the damned light. The sheet covering me clung to my legs and twisted around my ankles as I leaped from the table. Falling to my knees, I kicked and tore at the fabric while crawling for all I was worth to the far end of the room. The tile was cold against my palms, and the soft gray pants and top I was somehow wearing slipped over the polished floor, providing no traction at all. "Eva!" a feminine voice shouted. I stopped and turned, pushing my back into the corner of the stark white room. Some small part of my brain knew this wasn't the same room. This room was bigger. It had a metal medical table in the center of the room, and the glass was a window, not a wall. But the completely freaked out side of my brain saw only white, and him. Izzy appeared in front of me, dropping to her knees. She worried her lip, and her troubled eyes watched helplessly as I began to hyperventilate. I leaned to one side, then the other, trying to see around her, to see if he was really standing on the other side of the glass. "What's wrong, bestie?" Izzy asked. "Are you hurt? Did you have a bad dream? Did you fall down a wall?" "Huh?" Her bizarre question was enough to make me pause in confusion. I stared at the crazy clone, trying to sort out what human cultural reference she had slaughtered now. "Oh, fall down a well," I said, correcting her. "I'm not Lassie, you dweeb." She rolled her eyes at me. "Then why are you crawling away like a rabid dog is chasing you?" "That's Cujo, not... You know what? Never mind," I said with a groan. "Just please tell me we aren't back in the White Room." "We're not back in the White Room," announced a now familiar deep voice. My eyes traced over Izzy's shoulder to find him standing inside the room. He was definitely real, but that voice belonged to Luke. The eyes were Luke's. The leather-covered mountain of a body was Luke's. But the face was the guy from the White Room. Gone was the unruly mane of hair, replaced with soft dark brown locks cut and loosely secured at the nape of his neck. The long braided beard was now a closely trimmed mustache and beard over a strong square jaw. His bright teal eyes shone beneath thick brows. He had a long straight nose and wide full lips. Luke was mouth-watering, and my open jaw showed the proof of it. "Nope, we're on the Castapolix, Kai and Luke's ship," Izzy cheerfully announced. "We're inside a secret bunker in the middle of an asteroid belt. It's so cool. I can't wait to show you." Her voice trailed off and her head bounced back and forth between Luke and I. "But how?" Admittedly, it wasn't my finest speech, but I was finding it a little hard to think staring at the new Luke. "I don't know," he answered. "But it happened, and we were both there." Izzy's jaw dropped. "Oh my goodness! Luke is the one who pulled you into the common. I totally knew it." "What?" Luke and I both nearly shouted. "Well, I didn't exactly know, but I assumed," Izzy mumbled. "There are lots of guys with teal eyes here, but not many come in his size. Then there's the whole Agby meddling, and of course my mission, so I guess it shouldn't be a surprise, but I still thought... Izzy, I interrupted with a shout. What? She asked, crossing her arms defensively. Exactly. What the hell do you mean he pulled me into the common? I asked. Well, Izzy worried her lip again. Of course, I don't know for certain. It's not like the Vatas have a lot of experience with the Prithvi. None, really. It's more of a working theory. Explain, Luke interrupted with a growl. Fine, she said, huffing in exasperation. Eva fell into a strange portal and wound up in the White Room. You were each on opposite sides of a shield, like the shield the Creator put between the rest of the common and Prithia. After you pulled her through that glass wall, or shield, she landed in my bat cave in Vatasrazana, inside the common. Duh! Izzy sat back on her heels and smiled as though she had just solved the meaning of life. Luke and I silently stared at each other for a long moment. Why Luke? I asked. I mean, why not you or someone else? Apparently that question did not go over too well with the man in question, as evidenced by Luke's hostile glare. Because we're all connected on this mission, silly bestie, Izzy said as if it were the most logical solution. When you got stuck in the portal, I was in the middle of cloning, and Kai was pretending to sleep. Luke was the only one left to rescue you. Kai wasn't pretending, Luke muttered absently. Whatever, Izzy said, mimicking a perfectly Valley Girl response. Not that I knew anything about the common, or portals, or galactic shields around entire solar systems, but her theory did seem sound. It's not as though I had a better explanation. Although she didn't act like it, Izzy was a several-million-year-old being who had more knowledge about the universe than I ever would. Her theory had to be based on some prior experience. I hoped. I suppose in the grand scheme of things it didn't really matter what happened in the White Room. The end result was that I wasn't on Earth anymore, and I wasn't in the White Room any longer. Maybe Luke pulled me into the common, or maybe we just met in some wacky shared dream. Either way, Izzy was right. Somehow, in some crazy way, it appeared we were all connected. Luke crouched down on the opposite side of me, facing Izzy. For now, let's say I believe this theory of yours. What are the four of us supposed to do on this mission? Izzy made an annoyed sound in the back of her throat. Save the Hada, of course. Luke inhaled deeply and slowly let out his breath. Do you have a plan for this mission? You might not want to go there, I whispered. Plan? Izzy squeaked. Not precisely a plan per se. I had planned to plan a plan, but I'm not really a planner, so in all honesty, I plan to ditch that plan. Luke slowly lifted a brow and ground his jaw in frustration. I felt for the guy. I really did. Izzy could be quite the challenge to one's patience. What? She asked, propping indignant fists on her hips. I'm more involved in the big picture. I've gotten as far as the beginning and the end, but all that stuff in between, well, isn't that really your job to plan the plan? Luke lunged for the crazy clone. I threw myself between them, flinching from the sudden movement. I braced my hands against Luke's chest to stop him from killing my only friend in this galaxy, and it didn't hurt that the action prevented me from falling on my face. Trust me, I groaned. I know how you feel, but could you please not kill her? I've grown rather attached to the nut job. Aw, I love you too, bestie, Izzy said, then planted a kiss on my cheek. Luke growled in frustration, then focused all that tension straight at me. You're in pain. The non-question made me a little uncomfortable that he could read me so easily. Luke brushed my hair from my face, then rested his fingers against my pulse. After a second, he swept me into his arms, again, and placed me back on the medical bed. You've been injured 3 times in the last 24 hours and lost a lot of blood. You need to rest. Thank you for healing my leg and getting us off at Lana. How did we get here anyway? I asked. Portal, Izzy said with a smile, laying the sheet back over me. I'm glad to have missed that experience, I grumbled. Those things itch like a bitch. You can feel the portal? Luke asked. Of course, it feels like a dozen spiders crawling across my skin. I said, shivering with a full-body shake. Luke and Izzy stared at each other meaningfully. What? I asked. Commoners don't feel the portals. Not even portal makers feel anything when they walk through a portal, Luke announced. Izzy shrugged. Human half? Luke examined me like I was a bizarre creature from some distant... Oh yeah, I was a bizarre creature from some distant planet. Maybe, he slowly said. Isadora, go to the galley and fetch her some broth. Eglin will be there to help you. Who is Eglin? I asked. A Varuni! Izzy jumped up and down, clapping her hands with enthusiasm. The sound of her claps drove spikes of agony straight through my head. We have a Varuni on board. I can't wait until you see him. He's so pretty. Go, Luke growled. Sheesh, going. Izzy bounded out of the room, her hair bouncing in time with the skip in her step. Thanks. She's a little difficult to manage on the best of days, I said. Luke turned his back and pressed a spot on the wall. A panel popped open and he dug inside, pulling out several wires. He repeated the action a few more times, collecting other various items I couldn't identify. I couldn't help but watch as his muscles flexed and his strong body moved gracefully around the room. I was nearly mesmerized by this new Luke. I quickly glanced away as he returned back to my side and dropped his load on the bed next to my leg. Silently, he began to hook wires into spots beneath my very uncomfortable bed. The longer he toiled with the wires and such, the more I was starting to feel like the unsuspecting rat bound for an unpleasant experiment by the sexy scientist. What you doing? I asked. His lip twitched, but he didn't look at me. You're in more pain than a typical commoner would encounter from blood loss. I want your vitals monitored until our healer wakes from her sleep cycle and examines you. Luke attached a white pad to my temple connected to a wire that led to the machine beneath the table, then repeated the process on the other side. Well, this was good news. If he was concerned about my well-being, maybe he would hold to his bargain with the king of Atlana. It was rather nice not to be running from zombie aliens or psycho... whatever the hell Kerr was. So do you believe Izzy's theory? I asked. No, Luke answered with a grunt, again refusing to meet my eyes while he continued to place white pads on my neck and wrists. Well, do you believe the four of us are connected in some way? I asked. This time he did look at me. He scrutinized me for so long I wanted to twitch and shift on the bed. Just when I thought he wouldn't reply, his head tilted in a slight nod. Yes, he said quietly. Okay, the big bad shifter isn't much of a talker. For some reason, his lack of communication just made me want to ask even more questions. I can be a little annoying that way. So, are you going to do what Vol asked and let us stay? Vol didn't ask. He blackmailed. It's what he does, Luke growled, returning to untangling wires. He handed me a white pad. Place this on the center of your chest. I pulled open the top of my shirt and quickly shoved the pad against my skin. Who dressed me? Isadora, Luke replied. That was a minor relief. Not that I thought the crazy woman would let anyone get close to my unconscious body. She took her guardian duties seriously. If she didn't, at the very least she would do everything she could to hide the tattoo on my back. I'm not sure why the thing was so strange, aside from mysteriously appearing out of nowhere, but she and I definitely needed to have a discussion regarding the moving mutant tattoo, and soon. You didn't really answer my question, I said, watching him toy with a small silver cylinder. Are you trying to keep your options open? You ask a lot of questions, Luke growled. Yeah, I know. That bothered Izzy too. And you still didn't answer my question, I accused. Will Izzy and I be looking for new arrangements when I'm healed? No. Luke reached out and quickly pressed a cylinder against my neck. Hey! I shouted, smacking his hands away. What was that? Pain pause, he simply replied, turning to put back the supplies he hadn't used. Will Izzy or I be looking for new living arrangements before I'm healed? I asked. I firmly believed it didn't hurt to cover all your bases. Luke turned around and paused, his lip twitching again. I would like to think I was amusing the man enough for him to want to keep me around, but his face held absolutely no indication he was in fact amused. For all I knew, he was annoyed as hell and ready to rip off my head. an action of which I didn't doubt he was capable in the least. He slowly approached me and leaned over my bed, hovering just inches from my face. With nowhere to go, I was forced to look into his intense teal eyes, and damned if I didn't want to drown in them. "Don't you dare drool, Eva. In the few hours that I have known you, you have been mortally injured 3 times, he whispered. I stared at his lips, suddenly entranced by their movement. My heart raced, but I couldn't quite tell if it was from fear, lust, or more likely both, and that was a disturbing self-discovery. Based on that record, if I release you to the common, you will be dead within a single day, he said. Probably, I quietly agreed, nervously licking my lips. He briefly glanced at my mouth, then back to my eyes. If I brought you into the common, then I'm responsible for you. You'll stay. He pushed off the bed and headed for the door. I propped myself up to watch him go. My eye was drawn to his leather-clad ass, now that I could finally see the thing unencumbered by his long coat. Oh my, Eva, you're in for hours of drooling over that bum. Thank you, I called after him, shaking myself back to reality and finally taking a full, deep breath of relief. He stopped in the doorway and looked back with a wicked grin. Don't thank me yet, Eva. It's going to be a painful road turning you into a commoner. Get some rest, while you can. I watched Luke walk out of the medical room, then dropped back onto the hard metal bed. Well, shit! I had a single breath of blissful happiness, reveling in the thought that my death-defying galactic adventures were over. Honestly, I should have known better. Well, bring it on, I grinned. Continue the epic adventure of Eva and Lucian in Untamed, Book 2 in the paranormal science fiction adventure, The Chronicles of the Common. With danger around every corner, the only way for the both of them to survive is to learn to trust each other, or risk dying alone. Since arriving in the Common, Eva has acquired a crazy clone best friend, a psychotic stalker, and tentative sanctuary on a spaceship filled with paranormal creatures. On the run from the galaxy's most powerful players, Eva is determined to do whatever she must to survive, but when she is plagued by new magical abilities that are both lethal and terrifying, Eva can't help but wonder if the most dangerous threat to them all is her. It was supposed to be a simple mission, gathering supplies and then searching the Common for a new homeworld. Instead, the crew of the Castapollux is once again on the run. Luke's new mysterious crew member is not only an alleged wanted criminal and the latest obsession of his ultimate nemesis, but Eva's power also poses a danger to his crew. If Luke continues to protect Eva, he risks the safety of his people and the entire hybrid nation. But if he betrays her, he might lose his only reason to live. Subscribe to get the latest news on my current works in progress and upcoming audio readings right here on YouTube. If you liked what you heard, the Uncommon ebook can be purchased at all major retailers for only 99 cents. Thank you for listening.